Mel especially. We got three. I don't think I took these. Should I have?
Good evening, everyone. We proceed each council meeting with a word of prayer and pledge of allegiance. If you would like, please feel free to join us. Would you bow with me, please? Lord God, we thank you for this beautiful day. We thank you for your great grace and mercy.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which stands one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Now call this meeting to order. Mr. Garrett, would you call the roll, please?
Mr. Hawkins?
Here.
Mr. Grimes?
Here.
Mr. Cummins?
Here.
Miss Mel?
Here.
Mr. Ledbetter? Here. Miss Webb?
Here.
And Mr. Jones?
Here. Okay, you should have received copies of the February 27th, 2024 City Council minutes. Any corrections, questions, or changes?
Make a motion to approve the minutes.
Second.
Have a motion and a second to approve the minutes as submitted. Any further discussion? Mr. Garrett.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed?
7-0. First up tonight, we have Dr. Terry Fiddler here to give us a short presentation regarding the Arkansas Mission of Mercy Free Dental Clinic. Come on up, Dr. Fiddler.
Thank you very much for having me tonight. Quickly, April the 12th and the 13th next month, we will be having our Mission of Mercy. As you well know, several years ago when I visited here, we have moved it permanently to Conway, the Conway Expo Center. And the reason that we moved it here because I know all the folks that I can work with, and it works out very nicely. Kudos to the mayor, the city council, to the police department, the fire department, Conway Regional, Pafford. We just have really good folks to work with. Last year was our first year after a couple of years of COVID. We're now about to embark on hoping getting back into the real world. We were down last year, by your standards it wouldn't be, but I guess by my standards, but we saw 1,050 patients in 2 days and gave out $1,100,000 worth of free dentistry.
Wow.
This year, in the past, we have usually seen anywhere between 1,000 and 1,100 patients per day for 2 days, which would be around 2,200 patients. And the last time we were in Conway, we gave away $2.4 million worth of free dentistry. I say free. It is free. I called a gentleman today who is well known in the Hispanic community, and I tried to get the word out. By the way, I have them in the back. We have save the date posters, 12th and 13th, and have the things that which we give in both English and Hispanic. I say what we do in the clinic, it's organized chaos, but it is a very good product. It's God's work because we're helping people without anything to get we get back from it. Last year, because we were down, people who do these things, we brought approximately $160,000 to the community in economic impact. Whenever we have a big clinic, it's well over $200,000 because we buy all of our food locally from the local vendors. We have over 100, sometimes 150 motel rooms that we take, gas, everything that we buy here locally to make this work, we bring, except the dental equipment, we bring in and we buy it locally. And that was what we did when we traveled around the 5 other cities in Arkansas. So anyway, starting on April the 11th, which is the day before we set up, because of NABHOLTS, they help us on our equipment, heavy equipment. The 30 to 35 men from Renewal Ranch, they help with things that this gray-haired guy can't do anymore. And they take care of all of that work. And it's just a real community uh, effort. We have, I know we have one that always attends on the city council. I would ask each of you to try it one day and just see how you like it. If it doesn't touch your heart and cause tears in your eyes, then you and I need to sit down and talk, because it is a great product. Is there any questions that y'all have in 6 minutes? And that's all I'm going to do.
I appreciate what you and your group do for folks. Dr. Fiddler, it's a tremendous ministry and is well appreciated. And I agree with him. If you hadn't ever had a chance to go out there and see, you really should take time to do it. It's tremendous, and thank you.
Yeah, and it is at the Conway Expo Center, and I failed to say that the folks out at the Expo Center are just really good to work with. Thank you.
Felicia, we'll give this to Bobby and get it on our website. Yes, ma'am, Miss Mel.
No, I was just telling him good luck with it. This is great.
All right. First up on the agenda, we have a public hearing for the abandonment of an eastern 6 feet of the 15-foot utility easement running along the west line of Lot 1 in the Rock 10 subdivision. Ann Tucker, and I think maybe Bobby Kelly will speak to this. We'll now declare this public hearing open. And if anyone would like to speak for or against this, after these two folks, please come to the mic and state your name.
French.
Wrong Bobby.
Bobby French, 1021 Front Street. I said, I think my client is trying to close this portion of the easement for building purposes, and I think we've talked to all the utilities, got all the letters from everybody. Nobody has any easement or has a problem with it. We appreciate y'all's consideration.
And I know you're Bobby French. I just spoken Bobby Kelly's what name?
And I also would like to point out that there is a 15-foot easement on the adjoining property. So that's 15 plus 9. Let's see, 24 feet that we still have.
Thank you, Ms. Williams. Would anyone else like to speak for or against the possible closing of this easement? 6 feet of it. Now declare this public hearing closed, and we will move forward with that.
Make a motion to approve the easement? Is that next?
Yes, ma'am.
Or do we need to
Need to wait
waive the?
Oh, but we hadn't got to that part yet. I'm sorry. Let's go to item B1, Mr. Hawkins, and then we will come back and vote on this, Ms. Mel. Thank you.
I will do that. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. First of all, before we get started, I would like to recognize that we have some representatives from Boy Scout Troop 534 with us this evening
All right.
and at our city council meeting. Guys, if y'all will stand up, if you don't mind. Thank you very much for being here tonight. They're learning city government in action. First item on the agenda is consideration to approve waiving all 3 readings for the ordinances on this evening's city council agenda. And I'll take a motion for that.
So move.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve the waiving of all 3 readings for tonight's city council meeting.
I'm sorry.
Yes, sir.
Just for clarification, we probably should note that we're adding A1 to this list.
Thank you, Mr. Yes. Adding A1 to this list. Thank you, Mr. Grimes. Any further discussion? Mr. Garrett.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed.
Passes 7-0. Now, Ms. Mel, we will take that.
Well, it's down there. It's on.
B4.
It's B4. So we're in good shape.
Okay, very good.
Okay.
We're good.
All right. Mr. Hawkins.
Okay, next item, Mr. Mayor, is an ordinance amending the electrical and plumbing sections of the Conway Municipal Code for the permits department. And we have anybody who wants to?
I think
speak
Cecil
about
is
this?
here. Come on up,
Cecil,
Mr.
come on
Corning.
up. And tell us what you're wanting to do.
Good evening, council. The bond change, and I hope I'm reading this in correct order. Master electricians, their bond being only $1,000. For the same fee, it can be increased to $10,000. That is not only for the master electricians, but it's also for the master plumbers. It's an increase of their bond to protect the homeowner. There's no additional cost to them for this same fee. It costs you the same as 1,000 as it would 10,000.
Okay, so the amount that the plumber, the electrician pays does not increase,
Yeah,
but
correct.
it's, the city's just asking them to increase their bond on.
Yes, and they offer this bond for the same price.
Okay,
It's just the increasing it from 1,000 to 10,000. It's just a simple protection. It's whatever you ask for. They have a minimum of $100. You can ask for 10,000 rather than 1,000.
Okay.
And that includes both the electrical and plumbing.
Let's get the 10,
Yeah,
All right.
better deal.
I'd say.
All right, I'll take a motion to that effect.
Second?
We have a motion and a second to adopt this ordinance with the emergency clause to approve an amendment to the electrical and plumbing code, sections of the municipal code for permits and inspections department. Any further discussion? Mr. Garrett.
The ordinance O-2418. Ms. Mel,
Aye.
Mr. Jones,
Yes.
Ms. Webb,
Aye.
Mr. Grimes,
Aye.
Mr. Ledbetter,
Yes.
Mr. Cummins,
Yes.
Mr. Hawkins,
Yes.
and the emergency clause, Ms. Mel,
Aye.
Mr. Jones,
Yes.
Ms. Webb,
Aye.
Mr. Grimes,
Aye.
Mr. Ledbetter,
Yes.
Mr. Cummins,
Yes.
Mr. Hawkins.
Yes.
Vote passed 7-0. Cecil, you're still up.
Next item, Mr. Mayor, is an ordinance to update the building permit fee schedules for the Conway Municipal Code for Permits Department. Cecil, round 2.
All right. We have a very complicated system that was put in a couple of years ago, where it does a construction cost rate in addition to a calculation that's 0.00135 times your square footage times this construction rate. Your contractors have a hard time knowing beforehand when they come to pay how much the cost is because them doing this calculation is kind of out there. Plus, it doesn't remain the same. It changes every year. The construction calculation number. What we're doing is we're looking to go back to what we had previously 2 years ago. And it was a percentage times your square footage for your general contractor, but we're leaving the percentage rate at 47% times the initial cost of the general contractor, which it's actually going to be a lower cost for the rather than doing our old 6%, which was previously in place. Which, if you look at the 12% that we're going at, if we left it at 6%, you would be looking at a 50% cost at a 0.47, which is underneath that 50% cost. Your subcontractors would be paying less than we have before. Example, if I may, 2,000 square foot house. You have a minimum of $250 overall, regardless of what your calculation is. But an example is 2,000 square foot house. If you multiply this cost rate, 0.0135, on a residential house, you've got this number $78.71 times your square footage. The calculation comes up to $212. Well, your minimum is still at $250. If you do the calculation, and we did change the numbers some, we did a 12%. And the reason we changed this is so your general contractor out there, he knows what his square footage of his house is. He can just simply multiply it times a percentage and know what his cost is without having to change every year and do these many decimal calculations and with multiple figures. If you do the 2,000 square foot times the 12%, you come out to 240, which is a little bit over that calculation, but still, you're still underneath your $250 minimum. So really wouldn't apply there. It changes again when you go to your commercial. Commercial, we're doing it as a percentage also. We're moving it to 14%, which these numbers really are not changing from this last year's calculation. They're still really close. There's probably a small increase, but if you go back from previous years, your subcontractors are probably not going to be paying any more than what they previously had. your general contractors, there may be a slight increase on them. You've got your commercial and also residential. Now, those are two different numbers, and they do change percentages as far as the type of work you're doing. And that is for the calculation on what we're doing right now is a index construction cost rate. Now, that's a calculation of the labor and the material, depending on whether you're building residential or you're building commercial. The residential right now is 78.71, and that's the number that will change. The commercial is 101.19. That's the cost that you're going to be multiplying these figures by. We're wanting to eliminate that and just simply go by 10 or 12% residential, 14% commercial, and throw out all these 0.00135 times this residential cost rate and also the commercial cost rate. It takes out a lot of complication for the contractor out there to know what his cost is going to be before he ever starts his project. He knows if he's building a 2,000, 4,000, 6,000 square foot house, he can easily multiply it by an easy decimal number, and he's got his figure. He knows what his cost is. Where otherwise, every year, this construction cost rate is going to be changing. And from one year to the next, it's going to be a matter of doing a calculation all over again. Plus, it's a much more complicated calculation.
I understand the concern with the calculation. That is pretty daunting. I guess my question is going to be, due to the concerns from contractors as well as people who want to live here, is the cost of building in Conway.
Right.
How much of an increase do you think you're talking about here?
You're looking at minimal. If you're looking at a 4,000 square foot house on that same calculation, you're looking at $280 roughly. Well, I'll take it back. On a commercial, on a 4,000, I believe it goes up to 480. Where on a resident on the new calculation versus the old, you're looking at a difference between 273 and 280. Difference of $7. Difference in the calculation, but that will remain in place. It will not be changing. And the way it's set up on the way it is now, it can fluctuate 5% from one year to the next. And it doesn't necessarily go hand in hand. Your commercial may go up, your residential go down, or vice versa. The calculation we have in it is very complicated.
Thank you, Cecil. Council, you have any questions?
Simple is usually better.
Yeah, and is there any anticipated downside to this, other than
Actually,
a slight?
possibly a slight increase. Now, previously, before we changed this 2 years ago to this complicated calculation, we were at 10% for your general, and we were at 6%, or I believe 6%. It may date a few years back. We were 6% on the subs, which 6% or 0.6, meaning 60% of whatever it was costing the general. So you're reducing that. We're increasing the overall cost of the general from 10 to 12, but we're leaving that 0.47 calculation in there, which would still be less for the sub. If you calculated that's at a 0.6 or at 50% of the 12, you would still be underneath it at 0.47. I hope that makes sense. I know how it says in my mind. I'm not really sure if I can convey to you exactly the calculation I'm looking at.
Well, that brings the problem to me. I'm pretty good with math,
Yes.
and I'm having a little issue following
Okay.
all of the
Okay.
0.00013 numbers, and I'd like to table this right now and have you put together a something that we can look at that shows breakdowns for every $50,000 of construction. Start at a 200,000, or if you do square footage, start
Yes.
at a 2,000 square foot and run it up to whatever the largest one we did last year was.
Okay.
And
That can easily be done.
In the same way with commercial. And I know that we have one building that will skew the whole commercial
Okay.
process.
That can easily be done.
Could you do
I-
that for us and we'll
yes,
hold this
certainly
in
can.
committee?
I stayed very
No, I
basic
think
on
that's
my
a good idea.
initial, I stayed very basic on my initial calculations, and I saw that it changed, but it didn't change very much.
If I could see it with
Yes,
my eyeballs,
very
it
good.
sure would make it easier for me.
Okay, very good.
Thank you very much.
I do have, I'm sorry.
No, I was just saying, I agree. I'd like to, I've been following you, but I'm sure it's a lot of people that are listening have no idea what's going on. And
Okay,
short would be a whole
let
lot
me,
better.
let me try one more time, and I'll try to make it in a little bit simpler terms.
You can
Previous
do
to
that,
2
but I'm
years
gonna
ago.
Still ask you to hold it.
Yeah.
Previous-
A motion.
I'd like to make a
We're going to just table it right now, Cecil.
Okay.
Because
okay, very
I
good.
think it's very important to everyone here that we don't do anything that drives up the cost of building in Conway. Is that fair? And plus, I would like to understand it better myself.
Yeah, okay.
You okay with that?
Oh, yes, very, very much.
Okay. I'd like
And
to make a
I knew I
motion.
needed to
Second.
come up with some numbers, and I calculated the 2,000 square feet, but yes.
We have a
Thank you
motion
very
and a second
much.
to table this until meeting 2 weeks from now.
Because it
Further
doesn't look
discussion?
like there's any.
No, there's not.
Doesn't look like there's any hurry.
Mr. Garrett.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed.
Passes 7-0. Thank you, Cecil. We'll see you, hear from you in 2 weeks.
Okay, I do have one other thing on the agenda.
Sure.
Oh, yes, you do.
Well, come on.
Water heaters.
It is,
No. We've not put that on there yet.
It was in the ordinance on number 2.
Oh,
Was it added to this agenda?
It was added
it
in
was.
B2.
Yeah, it was.
All right, I'm not seeing it.
It's in
Second
B2.
part, yeah.
It wasn't
Yeah,
separated
I'm looking
out.
there. Okay, all right, go ahead, Cecil.
Well, we've already voted on it.
That's what I thought. That's what I thought.
it's water heaters in attic?
Yes.
We did vote?
Yeah,
on
it's already
this?
passed, and
Okay.
Would you go ahead and talk about it?
it's a good one.
We just didn't
So
know.
fire
that-
safety
we
wise and
didn't
life
hear
safety wise,
anything
it's
about
good.
it, but
Okay, very good. If everyone is good, if you have questions,
Well,
I'm here.
I have
Yeah,
a
we've got people that
question.
watch at home, so why don't you go ahead and explain it?
Okay.
Yes.
Water heaters, we're wanting to remove them from the attics.
Thank you.
In addition to.
That was easy.
Thank you.
New
Thank you.
construction, but also major renovations where they go in and rip everything out to remove the water system out of the attic there also. Now, it's been brought to my attention by the plumbing inspector that if you were putting the system in a closet that's conditioned space, like in your upstairs or something, that would be fine. But what we don't want it to do is to freeze.
The insurance industry would appreciate
And
this.
you're not necessarily directly above ceiling right there, sheetrock out in your living space. Potentially closet upstairs, you don't know where it's going to be, but your best ideal would be to keep it on the first floor.
I would suggest, Cecil, when you come 2 weeks from now, why don't you go ahead and bring the necessary information for the council as well as the public on it. Is it called the copper coated aluminum that they're wanting to start using again?
It's copper clad.
Copper clad.
Yes.
Yeah, why don't you bring that too, because that's something this council needs to be aware of as well.
Okay, very good.
All right, thank you, Cecil.
If I may
Yes.
speak on that for 1 second. Only thing okay, never
Now,
mind.
let's wait till the council's got it in front
Yeah,
of them.
okay.
All right,
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
no, sir. Thank you, sir.
I would tell you it's I'm kidding you. I was going to tell you it's my birthday, but it's not.
Happy birthday.
Thank you very much, Council.
Yes, sir. Thanks,
Thank-
thanks, Cecil. Mr. Hawkins.
Next item, Mr. Mayor, is an ordinance to approve the abandonment of a 15-foot utility easement running along the west line of Lot 1 in the Rock 10 subdivision. We talked about this earlier.
We did.
And we have an ordinance to read for this item. It's ordinance O-2419.
Yes, sir.
Make a motion to approve the ordinance?
Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve this ordinance, closing a portion of utility easement on Lot 1 of the Rock 10 subdivision in the city of Conway. Any further discussion? Mr. Garrett.
Ms. Webb,
Aye.
Ms. Mel,
Aye.
Mr. Hawkins,
Yes.
Mr. Cummins,
Yes.
Mr. Ledbetter,
Yes.
Mr. Jones, Mr. Grimes.
All right.
That passes 7-0.
And just in case anyone at home is wondering, we do have all of the requisite
Letters
releases
from
from
everybody.
AT&T and Conway Corp and Summit Utilities.
Yes.
Those are in our packet.
Thank you, Mr. Hawkins.
Yes, indeed.
You're up again, sir.
Next item, Mr. Mayor, is a resolution to approve on-call professional engineering services for the city of Conway. And we have a resolution to read for this, Resolution R 2413.
13.
Mr. Jones, talk to us.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
The other Mr. Jones.
Okay, so usually every 1 or 2 years, we come before you with a list of engineers, professional services. This actually includes engineering, surveying, landscape architecture, and appraisal services that we're requesting that the council approve as our on-call firms that we can utilize on smaller projects. Typically, we use them in situations where we're doing the bulk of the engineering, and we need some assistance, say with some landscape architecture or structural engineering or traffic engineering that, you know, maybe we don't have the in-house experience to do. You know, on larger projects, particularly grant-funded projects, we're going to go out and solicit RFQs for that individual project, much like the process that we're going through right now on our Connect Conway project, which will be hopefully coming to you guys with soon for approval on that selection. But anyway, so for the on-call, we do solicit statements of qualifications from these firms. They submit them. We do an internal scoring process, and these were the firms that we, through that process, selected to present to you to utilize for these on-call services.
But I'm good with this, but I would like to have a maximum dollar figure so that we're not awarding $500,000 contracts without having to put it out.
Okay.
I mean, do you have a number that you could throw in here?
50,000
1,000 once, 50,000 twice.
for the actual contract, professional services contract.
Yeah. That seems a little high.
Well, we could always do what the state allows as a maximum, then anything else has to come before the council. I think is the state amount, was it 20,000? It's 30,000 now, Felicia? 30,000.
Are you okay with that?
Sure.
Sure.
If that's your pleasure.
Are you sure?
I would prefer 50, but if we want to hold 30, I'm fine with that.
That's kind of the limit the state sets. Then otherwise it comes back before the council.
You don't anticipate seeing a 50,000.
We got a second back there. I heard it.
I'm good. I'm good.
Okay.
And maybe, Mr. Mayor, to your point, to your example, instead of putting a dollar figure, saying that we just follow the state, so that as it goes up, we just follow that.
Okay.
That way we don't have to change it every year.
All right. Back to you, council. If anyone makes a motion, let's add this into it.
I'll make a motion for adoption of the resolution with a $30,000 limitation. With the state
With the
limitation.
state.
Thank you, Mr. Cummings. Appreciate that.
Second.
I have a motion and a second to approve this resolution, set at a maximum of 30,000, which follows the state requirements. Anything over that would come back before the council. Any further discussion?
The resolution number, Mr. Garrett.
R2413.
13, thank you.
Mr. Garrett.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed.
That passes 7-0. This next one's exciting. I'm about as
Yeah,
excited as anything we've done in a while.
And this is a
Sorry, Mr.
resolution-
Hawkins.
That's all right. This is a resolution accepting the low bid for the realignment of Lower Ridge Road for the Transportation Department. Let's fix it good.
Okay, so yes, and this is one we're pretty pleased with this. We had a good turnout on the bid. This is, of course, the connector up there with Lower Ridge and US 65, that intersection that everyone hates. I was before y'all a couple of months ago, I guess. with the right-of-way acquisition, that was the final piece in this puzzle. We'd had the design completed for some time. We had some very good interest in this project, had several bidders, and I'm happy to say that we didn't win this one. Our estimate was higher than the low bid, so the low bid was from Palladino Construction. It was $1,217,725.15. And we're asking that this council grant permission for us to award that bid.
So moved.
Second.
Have a motion and a second to approve the low bid for the for Paladina Construction, which is a local company, proud of that, for the Low Ridge Road project, the Transportation Department. Any further discussion?
When might construction start on that?
Very soon. We'll issue the notice to award actually tomorrow. And then once we get the contract documents executed, we'll issue them the notice to proceed. And our understanding is that they're ready to go. So it should, within the next 30 days, hopefully.
Kurt, would you please explain to the folks at home that are watching just roughly how this is going to change up there?
Yes, of
I'm
course.
asked that quite frequently.
Of course. So what this project will actually do is it will provide a connection from Lower Ridge Road through the town center, shopping center, and access to that light that currently, serves that shopping center up there. So that if you're making a left turn off of Lower Ridge onto US 65, left or right, you can, either way, you can actually go through that light and utilize that light instead of having to try to make an uncontrolled turning movement out onto US 65. It will provide the same, obviously the same option for people turning left or right off of US 65 back onto Lower Ridge Road. Now, we haven't worked out all the right turn movement will still be allowed off of Lower Ridge onto US 65. And we're going to monitor that closely, and if we need to make further modifications up there at that particular intersection to further limit any turning movements or access to US 65 with the existing intersection, we'll make those changes at some future date. But this should vastly increase the safety of that intersection and provide the citizens a much better alternative than trying to turn out onto that. I know you made some comments about that last time, Mr. Hawkins.
I almost lost my life there.
Thank you, Kurt.
Okay.
Council, any other questions? Mr. Garrett.
Resolution R2414. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed.
Passes 7-0. Thank you, Kurt.
Thank you.
Mr. Hawkins.
Kurt?
Yes, sir. Kurt.
Yes, sir. One thing before, if I could interrupt just real
No,
quickly.
yes, sir.
These eclipse glasses made me think of something. A couple of weeks ago, when the governor had a press conference about the coming eclipse, she mentioned that the state would halt road construction during the eclipse event, the days preceding up to it, to have roads as clear as possible. And I would hope that we could endeavor to do that too, as much as we can. Have even if it's just temporary, have roads cleared and opened as much as possible that day and the days preceding up to it.
That is our intent, and this might possibly be. I know that was one of the things we were going to address specifically with this project in that area, because my understanding is that US 65 and that actually that corridor there and connection between US 65 and I-40 is one of the areas that the state has identified is potentially one of the more congested areas, I guess, in the state. So yeah, our intent was to have that conversation with the contractor in the pre-construction conference on this one and restrict any kind of construction activities, but absolutely on the day of the eclipse, and then maybe a day or two after the eclipse too, just based on what the traffic situation looks like.
Thank you. I know that downtown has a big day planned on Sundays. When they help downtown getting streets open would be helpful as well.
Okay.
I know I give Kurt a hard time about the eclipse, but he has been a wealth of knowledge for us because he does go to these events whenever they're around the nation. He he brings back good ideas on how to handle traffic and everything else. So even though I give you a hard time about being an Eclipse guy, Kurt, I appreciate all you've done.
Glad to see y'all got your Eclipse glasses.
Thank you.
Jacob thinks it's always funny.
I don't have a name tag.
Mr. Hawkins.
Final item here, Mr. Mayor, is consideration to approve the request from Elaine and Grant Good to waive the 12-month waiting period before a rezoning request may be submitted to City Council after a denial. And Ms. Tucker?
Yes, sir.
I'm going to, pardon me, Ms. Tucker, I'm going to, for those of you in the audience, I've asked Ms. Tucker to come up to explain how this works so that the people at home will know what's going on. There will not be any public debate about this tonight in here. All the council is voting on tonight is, do they want to allow this to proceed, go back and start all over before the end of the 12 months? If that were to happen, then everything would start from ground zero, where you have public hearings, where the builder meets with everyone, and then everyone has a chance to either speak to the planning commission or the council, depending on which way it goes. And so tonight, I've just asked Ms. Tucker to speak, and then the council will vote, and then we'll go from there.
Yes,
Ms.
sir.
Tucker.
Mr. Good has requested to bring back a proposal for the 80 acres that his family owns on Eagle Wing Drive before the 12-month moratorium expires. An R1 request was denied at the October 10th, 2023 council meeting. Since the R1 request was denied, he's now considering proposing a zoning change to a planned unit development. This could potentially offer more flexibility and allow for a more tailored approach to development, as it would enable the planning department, planning commission, and the city council to impose specific restrictions and requirements regarding the number of buildable units, green space, trees, and other considerations. Transitioning to a PUD zoning could provide an opportunity to address any concerns raised during the previous proposal and address neighbors' concerns.
Thank you, Ms. Tucker. Okay, council, the question is back to you now. Do you want to waive the 12-month waiting period or not? At this time, I'll open the floor to you guys. Do you have any questions or thoughts or how you want to proceed?
The one question I had, and I asked Ms. Tucker, was under what situations have we voted to allow someone to come back before the 12 months? And I even did kind of go, did a search in our records and stuff and couldn't find any. I can see where people asked, but not where we necessarily approved it. And what were some of those? Remember?
During my tenure on the planning commission, the city council, and since I've been planning director, there has not been an instance where we have allowed it. I take that back. There was one when I was on the planning commission, like on my third year, and I cannot remember what the circumstances were, but something changed, and I want to say it was an internal issue that was not the fault of the applicant, so we allowed them to come back. And as far as I can remember, that's been it.
I would just simply say in as few words as possible, this piece of property is the subject of a lawsuit. And given that fact, I don't really feel comfortable discussing any aspect.
Thank you, Mr. Grant. So, council, what I'm understanding, Mr. Finkenmeyer, would this be one of those instances where it could fail for the lack of a motion or the lack of a second, or does there need to be a vote taken?
Just like any other issue before the council, there has to be a motion and a second.
Okay. This time I'll take a motion. Have a motion, we have a second. This time, this has failed for the lack of a second. We'll move to the next item.
Mr. Mayor, then that's all that I have.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Hawkins. I got excited about that Lower Ridge Road project. Nearly cut you off. Next up, we have Public Service Committee, and we have Andrew Thames here to talk about an ordinance approving a contract amendment for Pompey Park for the Parks and Recreation Department. Mr. Thames.
Good evening, everyone. So this is just, we're looking to approve amendment number 2 for Craft and Toll to provide design and construct phase 3 of Pompey. appropriating $200,000 for parking, trail connection, and sidewalks. So this will go on the same west side as phase number 2. And again, it's just adding additional parking, trail connections to the already placed trail, and then sidewalks.
That parking's badly needed there.
Yeah.
It absolutely is.
It is good. I know a lot of folks are excited about the pump track coming back.
They are. I get emails.
I make a motion to approve the ordinance.
Have a motion and a second, so approving this ordinance for a contract amendment for Pompey Park for the Parks and Recreation Department. Any other questions or comments, council? Mr. Garrett.
Ordinance O-2420. Mr. Hawkins?
Yes.
Mr. Ledbetter?
Yes.
Mr. Jones?
Yes.
Ms. Webb?
Aye.
Ms. Mel?
Aye.
Mr. Cummins?
Yes.
Mr. Grimes?
Aye. That passes 7-0. Thank you, Andrew. Next, we have an ordinance appropriating funds for the purchase of conversion software for the Conway EOC, which for watching at home is the Conway Emergency Operations Center, or the 911 Dispatch Center. Chief Harris.
Good evening. So as y'all are aware, by January 1st, our operations center has to consolidate with Faulkner County. As part of that consolidation process, we need to integrate all the county roads and any new city roads into our CAD system. So currently entering new streets or jurisdictional boundaries is a manual process, and it takes several hours per street. So basically what we're asking for is your approval to purchase software that will allow us to take county and city mapping and integrate it with our CAD system. I will say that this purchase is 100% refundable. We'll get the money back once we are consolidated by the state.
And this consolidation, give us the dates on that, Chief. I know we got to have.
So we
January
could be
1st.
consolidated before if everything goes as planned, but we have to be consolidated by January 1st of this coming year.
Correct.
Make a motion to approve the ordinance.
Have a motion and a second to approve this ordinance for the purchase of conversion software for the Conway Emergency Operations Center. Any further discussion? Mr. Garrett.
Ordinance O-2421. Mr. Cummins?
Yes.
Mr. Grimes?
Aye.
Mr. Jones?
Yes.
Mr. Hawkins?
Yes.
Ms. Webb?
Aye.
Mr. Ledbetter?
Yes.
Ms. Mel?
Aye.
That passes 7-0. Thank you, Chief.
All right, thank y'all.
Council, anything else? Yes, sir.
Time for a bit of history.
Absolutely.
You know,
Is this Conway history?
yeah,
Well, yeah,
Conway
it
history.
is.
You know, they're talking about Lower Ridge Road. Some of y'all might remember when Walmart was
Yes.
down there, and when they were trying to approve, or we were trying to approve the addition of that shopping center there. We're real concerned because it takes forever to get a traffic light approved on the state highway. Amazingly, it got approved in almost no time. Of course, Mr. Sam Walton wanted
For those of you who may not be aware, one of our city council members, I think it's the same award that you won, Mr. Hawkins, Mr. Ledbetter, is the recipient of the Guy Murphy Award for Distinguished Service. Pardon me? The new one with the hair. So anyway, well deserved, Mr. Ledbetter, well deserved. Anyway, with that, council, I'll take a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
We are adjourned. Thank you.